This has been an interesting week. And I'll just be honest with you about some things. This week, there's just been a lot of shifts. They're not bad shifts. I don't think any shift is bad, but I think these are, in fact, good shifts. I think most of the time when we make a shift, it's frustrating or difficult at first, just like any change. But when you start to step into it, like when I first heard that this iPhone was not going to have a home button, it's the idea stressed me out. But then I get it. And I made the change within a day, and now I cannot go back to the home button. My wife had to get an iPhone X because I kept trying to use her phone some, and it took me like 10 minutes to figure it out before I got back in because she had the home button. So change it first is difficult, but once you step into it so often, if we would just let it have its positive effect on us, then everything will be different. And I'm thinking about the first chapter in the book of Acts. I don't know if you've ever read it before, but Acts comes in immediately after Jesus dies, hangs around with the disciples a little bit after he rises from the grave, and then he ascends to heaven. Now, when you look at the Gospels, you don't see a whole lot of teaching or leading from the disciples. In Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you see some interactions. Sometimes they're seating people when it's the feeding of the 5,000 or the 4,000. You see them doing different things. But really, and everybody knows it, Jesus is in charge of the group of disciples. But then he dies, resurrects, and 40 days later he ascends. And so when he ascends, he tells the disciples, I will no longer be with you. It's not up for you to judge the end of the age or how things happen, and it's not up for me to handle those things. But what he says is, I'm leaving, and the power of the Holy Spirit will come on you. To be exact, the Holy Spirit will come over you, and it will give you power. Right? So then you go into chapter 2. These disciples, they left. They got a couple new leaders like Matthias and some other guys. They're hanging out. They don't really know what to do. Jesus left, and they don't quite know what to do because the Holy Spirit hasn't come, and they're here. They're in this holding phase. They're in this transition. It's a time of change. And they spent 3 years with Jesus, and he just died. And yeah, he came back to life, and that's super crazy and exciting, but what do you do with that information? And so they're hanging out in this upper room, and then the Holy Spirit comes upon them, and they allow it to affect them. And Peter is the first person to preach after that scene. And all of the people speaking in tongues, loud shouts, all these different things. And there's a comment made in verse 7 of chapter 2, and then I'll jump into kind of my point. It says the people talking about the disciples in the upper room who were speaking in different tongues and then who were communicating in such a way that was not natural to them because of the power of the Holy Spirit. It says in verse 7, they were amazed and astonished, saying, why are not all these who are speaking Galileans? So what I want to talk to you today about is taking ownership when you don't know what to do. Taking ownership when you don't know what to do. Leading when there's no leader but you don't know how to lead. Making a change when you don't know what the end of that change looks like. And the best way I can do that is just give you my example. This week, we had some transitions in the worship team. Wesley and Sarah, God's got them doing some new things, and so they're transitioning out. It's a good thing for them. It's good for their family. They've got a lot of kids and all these other things going on. It's been a long time coming because there's just a lot going on in their lives, and God is doing something special in them. And so they're stepping out of this. Well, it's good for them, but it was confusing to me. I get it, right? This isn't on them at all, but for me, I'm like, okay, there's a transition. There's a change. They're getting rid of the home button. I don't know what to do about it. And so there was this Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday where I just didn't know what to do. And here's what this is relevant to you. There's going to come a time where your leader may need to step out for a day. Something may happen. There's going to come a time where you as leaders, you need to make a transition. There's going to come a time where you have to move from volunteer, whether you planned it or whether God just placed it right in front of you. There's going to come a time where you transition to looking at things rather than I'm just going to show up. I'm going to make this happen because God gives us that responsibility. When Jesus left, he gave the disciples that very responsibility. Hey guys, I'm gone. I'm stepping up into heaven. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. But the disciples, you think they're thinking that? Do you think they're thinking it's good? Do you think they fully understand, hey, I have to leave so that you guys can do what you're going to do and build the church, and then I can come back and bring the church fully to God? Right? They're not thinking all of that. They're thinking, no, we were with you for 3 years. You're leaving. You're changing things on us. This is a transition we don't desire. And for me, this was a transition that's good, but I didn't desire it. And for you, there are transitions in your life that are good, but you don't desire it right now. So the best thing you can do, this is what they taught me when I played football. I sucked at football. I sat on the bench. Well, you have to stand up, otherwise you get in trouble. But I didn't really play much. But during practice, this is what they would always teach us. When a big problem, a big guy with a ball is coming at you head on, the best way to do is not to turn to the side. It's not to run away. That would look stupid. It is to hit it. Anyone got the word for me? Head on. So when you have transitions, it's going to be really easy for you to scale back, to turn, to say, hey, that's not our responsibility. But God's given us all the equal responsibility of making things happen in a realm of impossibility. But here's a catch. You got help. Mm-hmm. You got the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
And so when power came on a preacher, Peter's preaching. Peter's preaching the gospel, and they're confused because of how eloquent he is. But this is Peter, this fisherman who can't talk. The Spirit made it happen. Dude, I never used to be able to talk, but God changed something. The Holy Spirit shifted something. I was tone deaf. When I was in high school, I was tone deaf halfway through college. You can ask her. But God shifts things. God can literally take no ability and make it something special when His Spirit is in it. So for you, and I'll close with this. For you, whether you're on the Welcome Team, whether you're in eKids, whether you're on EHQ, whatever those things are, whether it's transitioning into leadership, whether it's simply taking ownership in your current position, God wants you to do it. He's given you the responsibility to do it, but He hasn't left you alone in it. He's given you the power of His Spirit. So whether you're struggling to do something you don't know how to do, or just frustrated because you don't feel like you're a leader, man, this church thing, it doesn't happen without God anyways.
Yeah. Amen.
So no matter how good you are or how sucky you are, if God doesn't invest Himself in it, there ain't nothing going to happen.
Yeah.
So that gives us the freedom to just do.
Yes.
Do it.
Do it.
Yes.
I don't know. I hope that's a little helpful.
Yeah.
Let's stand. We're going to pray. Lee's going to come up and pray because I'm going to go get an acoustic guitar.